This is 9 News Canberra with Vanessa O'Hanlon.
Good evening. Senator Cory Bernardi looks set to hit the nuclear button and split with the Liberal Party. The move will likely increase tensions between factions inside the coalition and heap more misery on the Prime Minister, already under pressure after another set of bleak poll numbers today.
Back in Canberra for the new parliamentary year.
Can I squeeze past?
And a short time ago, the Nine Network's political editor Laurie Oakes filed this report on whether Cory Bernardi's decision could cause long-term damage to the coalition.
Assuming Cory Bernardi goes ahead with the split tomorrow, and that's looking just about certain, the immediate effect will be one less coalition senator, one more independent. But he'd still vote with the government on most issues, so that's no biggie, really.
Politicians arriving in Canberra for the start of the parliamentary year have been greeted with a reminder of a key community issue. The Canberra airport has joined a new nationwide push for MPs to be given a free vote on same-sex marriage.
It's an issue Canberrans feel particularly strongly about.
It's a matter of conscience, the right to be able to marry for all Australians. It's only fair.
6 people have been arrested in a mind-boggling cocaine bust off the coast of New South Wales. Almost 1.5 tons of the drug, with a street value of more than $300 million, was discovered on a yacht. The operation was the culmination of a 2.5-year investigation into an alleged international drug network. One of the state's oldest cities is about to get a multi-million-dollar facelift. Plans have been unveiled today to revitalise the main business areas of Queanbeyan. Harry Frost has our report.
New plans for an overhaul of an old town centre.
We're looking at a mix of commercial, residential developments.
Let's go live now to Harry Frost in Canberra. And Harry, this will all go ahead even if the state government doesn't chip in.
That's right, Vanessa. It's a hugely ambitious program, an expensive one, but the council's administrator is confident he'll be able to go ahead with the project through the sale of existing council buildings that will now be vacant, as well as private-public partnerships, and also without raising rates. Of course, those in the Greater Canberra region might be asking themselves, what's in it for me? But the government and also the council say that in the coming months there'll be further announcements about upgrades to town centres. Vanessa?
Has been warned. ACT police have speeding drivers in their sights this month, with 10 fatalities on Canberra's roads last year. Authorities say road safety messages aren't getting through.
I can only speculate on what the families must go through when they get the knock on the door by a police officer that has to pass on that tragic news. And for a police officer, again, knowing that it may have been preventable or would have been preventable had people been sticking to the speed limits.
Police warn drivers caught speeding face heavy fines and possible loss of licence. ACT police are investigating a brawl which broke out at Rose Cottage on Saturday night. Police were called to the popular Gilmore Function Centre at around 10:30 with reports of a fight. Task Force Nemesis, which specialises in outlaw bikie crime, will be assisting with the investigation, and anyone with information is urged to contact police. A woman has been injured following a house fire in Belconnen this morning. Fire and rescue crews arrived at the fire shortly after 11:30 this morning. The woman was treated by paramedics at the scene before being transferred to Canberra Hospital in a stable condition. The cause of the fire is being investigated. Initial estimates put the damage bill at around $400,000. Ahead in the news, work begins to put a smile on the face of a sick toddler. A warning about herbal medicines, what's really in natural supplements. And in his only television interview, Ricky Stewart's reaction to the Raiders' disappointing Nines campaign. Police have made a new push for any information on a missing Korean man who they believe has been murdered. 52-year-old Sang-Don Yo was last seen in the Sydney suburb of Lincoln almost 4 years ago. A short time after his disappearance, this man was seen at Sydney Airport with Mr Yo's wife. Detectives say he's the key to solving the mystery. Australia's long-awaited media reforms will be debated in the Senate, but we don't know just when. Communications Minister Mitch Fifield says changes, which include a review of what major sporting events must be shown on free-to-air television, are underway.
there was to be any change to the anti-siphoning list in the future, there would need to be, I think, a good community understanding and also broad parliamentary consensus.
The Minister also welcomed the Nine Network's new local news bulletin in Canberra, the first of 15 to be rolled out across Australia. Ahead in the news, to France first, the woman who wants to follow in the footsteps of Brexit and Donald Trump. And hidden danger, what you need to know about the risk of herbal medicine. Like much of New South Wales, Sydney came within a whisker of breaking a summer heat record today. It was the last thing police and firefighters wanted after revealing they're on the hunt for an arsonist who started a bushfire in the city's north.
It took firefighters hours in extreme heat to bring this bushfire at Barowra under control.
Mike Lorigan is next with Sport. And Mike, we've had a history-making Super Bowl.
It does not get better than this, Vanessa. Super Bowl 51. They don't call it the greatest show on earth for nothing, and the Patriots have shown us why. Also ahead, the Raiders put their underwhelming Nines campaign behind them. Ricky Stewart speaks exclusively with Nine News, and fighting words from David Warner as he flies out for Dubai ahead of the Test series against India. The New England Patriots have created history, pulling off the most incredible Super Bowl comeback of all time, defeating the Atlanta Falcons 34-28. But despite the epic game, some would argue it played second fiddle to the halftime show. Now, that's it for Sport tonight. Stay with us. Coming up after the break, Gavin Morris has all your local weather details.
To finance, and markets closed up slightly higher. The All Ords rising 11 points. A dollar down slightly against the greenback, buying 76.66 US cents. Well, it's been a hot one. Now it's time to catch up on the latest weather details. Good evening, Gavin Morris.
Good evening and welcome to a close look at your local weather forecast for the nation's capital and the south coast. It's been a record-breaking summer of heat, the hottest January on record. Electricity use is at an all-time high, but there's good news. Relief is on the way, and we also have a little bit of rain starting to build throughout this afternoon as the cloud cover capped off temperatures for southern New South Wales, mostly in the low 20s, but that hot air still lingering for yet another day. Now, the change is obvious on tonight's satellite image. It has engulfed Victoria, southern New South Wales, the Riverina, and it was increasing across the ACT. And there's good news. There's actually cold air in behind this system. It's not a bad-looking southerly change. There is an intensifying low off the northwest coast of Western Australia that is trying desperately to become a cyclone and dumping huge amounts of rain, and that is adding to their record season of rainfall throughout the northwest. And talking of rain, we've got some on the way, particularly for the coast. We're going to see some decent numbers accumulated over the next 24 hours. If you're travelling around the nation, for Perth storms on the way after a top of 28, beautiful conditions. There has been a wet season in Adelaide, the pool of hot air lingering over central Australia as the cloud increases from the ACT to Sydney, finally the base, and beginning to cool, but still very hot for Brisbane during tomorrow. Now, tomorrow's winds, they are going to be quite gusty, particularly for the coast, and finally they are going to win against that pool of hot air over the interior. So temperatures dropping with those easterly winds, a beautiful rain band moving through, some moderate falls. Good numbers are expected on the coast, and they will linger across the Illawarra into the evening. Tomorrow's temperatures only maxing out in the low 20s thanks to that southerly, the cloud cover and the rain moving through. Throughout the southern tablelands, temperatures also quite cool. Headed for the mid-20s for the nation's capital and Queanbeyan, with rain on the way, and that'll be passing during the day and beginning to ease as we move towards the evening period. Out on the waters, strong wind warnings have been issued for the entire coast, so seas up to 2.5–3 metres. It is going to become really quite choppy. The swell is not going to be overly large at 1.5 metres, but it will be building throughout the day. Taking a look at your tidal information, the high is early, just before 6 tomorrow morning, working to the low at about 12:40. Sun up at around about 6:23 and down just after 8. It's a beautiful moon phase with us at the moment, leading up to the next full moon coming up on the 11th. So looking at that forecast leading up to the weekend, the rain moving through tomorrow. Enjoy the cooler conditions because the heat is going to roll back in really quite fast across the nation's capital and the southern tablelands. It's a very similar forecast with the showers clearing, very hot. Trough line moving in, could have some storm development, mostly around the central tablelands, and it is going to be a very hot weekend. For Illawarra, similar story, beautiful southerly moving through, cooler conditions, not bad at night, is going to be very humid indeed. And for the south coast, also very windy, quite cool, and then the heat is going to rebuild as we move towards the up and coming weekend. So it is a little bit of a roller coaster over the next week. Enjoy the cooler conditions because the heat is set to return. I'll be back with a close look at your local weather, same time tomorrow night.
And that's 9 News for this Monday. Tracy is next with a current affair. We'll leave you with pictures from Old Parliament House, a reception for the official launch of 9 News Canberra. I'm Vanessa O'Hanlon. Thanks for joining us on our first night. I hope you can join us tomorrow. Good night.